And while Takato's open to the idea of like a group of kids fighting Digimon together, Henry and Rika aren't, due to their own personal beliefs about what Digimon are and why they're here and is fighting wrong or not. But eventually they do get won over to Takato's side through conversations with him and traumatizing events that throw everything they thought was true into question. Which I think really helps Takato build, unique relationships with them. It also makes the role of group leader a bit more ambiguous. And that's something I noticed a lot of fans of this season like to say. There is no real leader in the group. The three kids are valued equally. Takato may be the main kid. But if he is the leader, he's not like unquestionable. In fact, I don't think Takato or anybody in the group ever named him the leader. So that definitely plays to the whole equal playing field argument. Also, this is the first season where all the main kids get mega level evolutions. So nobody's like really sitting on the sidelines too much. And even if one or two of the kids have a higher evolution than the other, usually you can just swipe some cards and then I'll make up for the difference. And even when Takato does get something higher than Mega, it's at the very end of the season and all the other kids are off doing something that's equally important as what he's doing. So there really isn't like a huge power gap. Anyway, let's start talking about the relationship Takato has with these kids in the group, because I think he has the most unique relationships out of anybody else in the show. Mostly because of the fact he shares a class with a lot of the kids that join the group later. Because you got characters like Kenta and Kazu who are Takato's best friends. And while they are really annoying, the least I can give them is that despite their obnoxious behavior, they do share enough scenes with Takato where they seem to be like genuinely having fun, to the point that I could believe that Takato is really friends with them. At least in the show's context. It's not like a far-fetched friendship. In fact, I wish that this is all Kenta and Kazu remain throughout the season. Just Takato's just dorky and annoying best friends, instead of becoming Digimon Tamers. I'll explain what I mean by that later. These two are going to get their own part, but it's going to be really short and tie into something else. And then there's Jerry, who is Takato's female counterpart and love interest. Let's also wait a bit to talk about her. Yeah, we're going to talk about her quite a bit, and I just got to space this out. I can't all blow it at once. And then there's Henry. Henry is the first Digimon tamer that Takato meets. And he acts kind of like Takato's mentor / big brother. They spend a lot of time together over the course of the season, and their conversations mostly consist of just Henry bouncing philosophical ideals off Takato, and Takato just trying to keep up. Their conversations are usually really one-sided. But mostly Henry works as also Takato's conscience, trying to guide him to do the right thing, or what Henry thinks is the right thing. And seeing how they spend so much time together, seeing how they go to the same school and all that, they probably have the strongest human-to-human relationship in the group. Then there's Takato's relationship with Rika, which is a little more complicated. Because she is another mentor and confidant for Takato, very similar to Henry, but the relationship isn't as deep as those two. Because like I said, Henry and Takato are around each other a lot. Like even in the digital world, with all the teleportation beams and all the group separation, these two are by each other's side constantly. And it makes Rika seem like she's the bit of the odd man out in this story. I mean, most of her interactions with our main hero here is just like in a non-exclusive group setting. Although it does kind of fit with her loner personality they're trying to set up. And also, she does get other interactions with people. So, whatever. But what makes her relationship with Takato kind of confusing is it's unclear if the show and the writers are trying to set up them as like a possible, romantic pairing. Yeah, in this area, it's kind of hard to tell where the official writers end and the fanfic writers begin. Because you have these scenes, these ones, where it's unclear if it's supposed to be like sexual tension they're having, or if it's just Takato being, awkward, like he normally is. It could actually be a little bit distracting, so I usually just go for the latter interpretation of some of these scenes. Because Takato's already got like an overt love interest, so a more subtle one would just seem unnecessary. Besides, I think it's just cuter to think that Takato is just that much of a dweeb without any hidden, undertones of any kind. And then there are Takato's parents, who, out of all the parents that are featured, given a spotlight in this season, they're probably the least interesting, or at least the least eventful. They're not abusively neglectful, and they're not part of any, secret government conspiracies. They just bake bread for a living. But don't misconstrue that as they are boring or just bad characters. They're shown to be nice parents who are concerned about their son's safety, but can be very understanding, like the way they begrudgingly accept Takato's role as a tamer, not because, they think it's good. In fact, they think it's very dangerous and they don't want him to be, but they also do realize that he needs to put himself in danger in order to save the world from certain destruction. And they can also be pretty funny, especially the dad. If you're interested, according to the head writer's website, there was originally supposed to be more of a backstory for Takato's parents regarding the dad quitting a middle management job to buy a bakery, but that got cut from the final script. So there was supposed to be a little more about them, but I'm not too upset. I'm pretty happy with what we got. They're just portrayed as likable, average parents, and that fits with Takato's, characterization. But now we're going to talk about the most important relationship in this season. Guilmon is Takato's Digimon partner. He was created when Takato's doodles and sketches that he drew in school were scanned by his Digivice, and then through the power of Diginomes and Shibumi, this manifested into a Digi-Egg, which hatched in the real world. Takato found him, and that's how Takato got Guilmon. Anyway, the premise behind Guilmon is actually kind of interesting and unique for the series. To have a Digimon partner that is just as clueless, if not more clueless, about Digimon and the digital world and Digimon taming as his human partner. They do this by making Guilmon have the intelligence of a toddler. When Takato first meets Guilmon, he doesn't know where he is, where he came from, what a Digimon even is, and Takato has to try to explain all of this to him. And in the beginning of the season, Guilmon has a really bad habit of wandering off, and doing whatever he wants, just like a little kid would. The idea here is to put Takato and Guilmon on an equal playing field, so that as the show goes on and they get new information about Digimon or other stuff like that, they're learning it at the same time and growing together. And also, with Guilmon having the mindset of a small child and unaware of his surroundings, it puts Takato in the sort of parental role that teaches him responsibility, and things like that. So yeah, Guilmon is just kind of a tool to try to help develop Takato, but the show manages to do a pretty good job of making Guilmon his own individual character. Like, Digimon partners up until Tamers just seemed to be like they didn't have a lot of personality and were rather just like extensions of their human partner's personality, with the possible exceptions of Wormmon and Gomamon. But yeah, this season definitely tried to give the Digimon partners more, independence from their tamers. And while Guilmon may not be the best example of this in this season, I think Renamon and Terriermon are better examples. He still manages to go out and carve his own niche. And he does have the excuse of being so young and so new to his surroundings that it would make sense for him to be less independent from Takato, because he needs to rely on Takato for just about everything. And their relationship, let's face it, is pretty much the main focus and crux of this entire season. They are the two outsiders that come into this whole new adventure blind and have to learn and grow simultaneously side by side. And they have to unite the digital world and human world together. And they do this symbolically by actually becoming one creature, half Digimon, half human, and being so connected with one another that they can literally share mind, body, and spirit. But there was quite a bit of conflict in the journey getting to this point. It wasn't all sunshines and little cutesy scenes where it's like, oh, I thought you ran away, but you didn't, so therefore you really do love me. No. What would Digimon Tamers be without its hints of darkness? You see, the main conflict in Takato and Guilmon's relationship is that Guilmon at times enters this sort of primal, primitive fury. He drops his cute and cuddly act and becomes vicious. The first case of this is when Takato meets Rika and Guilmon and Renamon start fighting. And you see the side of Guilmon that Takato knew, you know, the happy-go-lucky, innocent, bread-loving creature, disappear. And he devolves into this vicious, snarling beast that's trying to rip Renamon's arm off. And Guilmon does snap out of this state before any permanent damage is done to either one, but this event does traumatize Takato. And that leads into what is the main philosophical question for this first arc that the heroes are trying to answer. Are Digimon just at heart vicious creatures that will eventually turn on their owners and turn into just crazy fighting machines? Now, all the characters have their own ideas and thoughts on it. We'll talk about those later. But Takato is really unsure. So at times he'll try to keep Guilmon out of fights because he fears that Guilmon will enter that primal state again and maybe permanently stuck in it. And Takato will just lose his best friend forever. But after a couple heart-to-heart talks and some team-building events, I guess you could say. But all this, trust that they had with each other is almost undone when Guilmon digivolves and loses control again. Only this time he's not like a 4-foot dinosaur, he is now a 9-foot dragon. With a pretty sick mullet, if I do say so myself. And his fear is renewed. Now, I would complain about this being kind of repetitive because it is just recycling the same fear Takato had earlier and just going through the motions again. But the dialogue and the scenes dealing with this fear are really good. I mean, there's this scene that when they're at the playground, and I really like it. Takato is just expressing his fears to Guilmon and saying that he doesn't want Guilmon to digivolve because he fears that he's afraid that Guilmon's going to permanently become a mindless monster. But at the same time, Takato's trying to get across that he knows Guilmon has to digivolve in order to fight evil and save humanity or whatever. And Guilmon does manage to talk Takato down from his fears and basically say, look, we're friends, you have to trust me. I don't know, I'm just summarizing it real quick, but I think the scene itself is very nice. But this whole conflict comes to a head at the end of the second arc, when Beelzemon has just killed Leomon. Takato witnesses firsthand the death of the best friend of the girl that he has a crush on, and now the monster that at one point Takato actually tried to befriend announces that he's gonna come over there and kill Guilmon and kill all of his friends and all that stuff, and Takato just loses it. He demands that Guilmon digivolve into a creature strong enough to kill Beelzemon, and Guilmon does listen, but at the same time, Guilmon transforms into exactly the type of thing that Takato feared all along. He transforms into a snarling, mindless beast that only wants to destroy things. And it turns what was already a bad situation into a horrible situation. Because somehow this forced evolution throws the entire digital world and by extension the human world into chaos.